Abhishek, let's start without delay. So I'm just.
Yes, yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. I was calling you, Manish. How are you? Swades.
Yes, sir. Namaskar. Manishji, last session I was not in there, I think.
Manish was not there. Now
Yeah,
let's start. Let's start without delay. Okay, Abhishek already familiar, so I'm not introducing because he came earlier also.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving me an opportunity to discuss today's unit. So it's pleasure to meet you all again for another interesting lecture, which soon I am going to discuss with all of you. So let me start sharing my PPT.
Yes,
Discuss today's unit. So yes, I hope so that it's visible to you all. And yes, so the
Abhishek, some echo is there. Maybe. Okay.
okay. So today we are going to discuss Unit 81, which is issues of state, citizenship, and belonging. So this unit comes under the block 3, which is about contemporary diasporic formations and emergent issues. And this comes under the core set diasporas in India. So in previous discussion, we discussed more about Indian diaspora abroad and what were the government initiatives which were taken for Indian diaspora. But today we are going to discuss a few other aspects which will cover diaspora from other countries who are into India. So what are our objectives? Our objectives include to understand the conceptions associated with state, that what does it mean by state in international relations. Then we are going to discuss what does it mean by citizenship, and are there any particular nuances which we need to know while we understand the conception of citizenship. Thereafter, we are going to understand the discourse of belonging, because that is also a very important dimension which we have to cover today. Afterwards, we are going to discuss case study of Tibetan diaspora in India. That what are their issues, and is Indian government taking initiatives for them? If yes, then what are the challenges which Tibetan diaspora is facing in India? Thereafter, we are also going to have a sort of comparative scenario or dynamics to understand that what is going on with the Tibetan diaspora in the United States. Are they facing some issues there also? So that is also we are going to discuss. So this is broadly we are going to discuss in today's unit. So let's start with our lecture. This is about the conception of state. So as all of us know that in common nuances, we say that we use the word country to denote some key characteristics. But when it comes to international relations, we use the term state. And that state has a deeper nuances when we try to understand that. So we see that the conception of state has evolved over a period of time. But we see a remarkable shift in terms of understanding of state after the Treaty of Westphalia, after 30 years war in Europe. We see that conception of sovereignty emerged. And through that, the full idea of state came into limelight. So when we say state, there are four key characteristics. One is permanent population. There should be a clearly defined set of population that they have the citizenship of that particular territory. So that is a very key element of a state. Because without population, we cannot say that it's a state. There should have been, or there should be a clear set defined population. Then the second characteristic is about territory. That is also a very crucial element, because without a proper defined territory, one cannot have a jurisdiction over a particular place or area. So that's why territory should also be there, and that should also be recognized by other member states. It's not like that you say that this is my territory and it's highly contested and other countries are not recognizing it. So that is also something which has to be there for the conception of state. Thereafter, there should be some governing mechanism. We can call it government, and that can be any form of government. It doesn't matter what form of government is it. It can be democracy, it can be autocratic, it can be dictatorship. But for being a state, there has to be an institution, a governance institution. Here we are terming it as a government. And the fourth concept, that is most crucial aspect, that is about sovereignty. So sovereignty is a term which very complex, as well as it provides you the overarching power to define your domestic relations, to have final authority on decisions, as well as final authority on foreign policy aspects. So this is what all about the state. So I came to know this interesting quote by Arnold, where it says that Palestinians belong nowhere because notions of territorial integrity supersede considerations of humanity. Now we realize here that when it comes to Palestine, why it is not getting recognition worldwide in terms that it's a state. Because now here is like, you don't have a clearly defined territory. It's highly contested and other countries are not recognizing it. So it's like maybe those, in terms of those people who are suffering in Palestine, they have that demand for them that they should be considered as a state, so that they can get due recognition and rights and all the welfare mechanisms associated with it. But we see that this is something beyond humanity, because then it comes to territorial politics, geopolitics, and all such dimensions. So through this slide, we can understand that this is about state. So once we are clear about that, what does it mean by state, then we can move forward about other nuances of other conceptions. When it comes to India, so as a international actor, India is party to several of the agreements. Some of the key agreements to which India is party is, as you all know, are aware of it, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, 1965, International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, 1966, International Convention on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, 1966, Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, 1979, Convention on the Rights of the Child, 1989. So these are the international conventions to which India is party. These are only few, just to have an idea of, because when we are going to discuss citizenship, belonging, identity, and all those nuances. So this is something which we have to keep in mind, that India as an international entity is a party to many of the conventions. Now, I think we also discussed citizenship in the previous lecture also, but here it comes as a different dynamics. And when we think about citizenship, so I told in the previous discussion also that it's an evolving concept. We cannot have a monolithic definition where we say that, okay, this is citizenship, because it has been evolving since ancient Greek city-states, and even now till it's evolving. The way I told you that diasporas are also demanding dual citizenship. So when India, suppose in coming future, India accepts their demand, so there we will see a different sort of scenario where the conception of citizenship will change. So that is what we have to keep in mind. So you take example of Aristotle, because he is also known as father of political science. So one of the foremost figure who was highly scientific in nature, who had given numerous concepts and political discourse, and who is widely appreciated for his views. But even then, he had many views which we consider in today's scenario, and we can say that it's a regressive sort of conception of citizenship. So what was his conception? He said that in citizenship, women, foreigners, and slaves cannot be part of citizenship. In addition to it, he also said that children as well as elderly people, they also cannot be part of citizenship, right? So what was he thinking about at that time? Since there used to be Greek city-states with a small population, so what he meant by that in those times, that only those people who can fully involve themselves in administrative tasks or the activities of governance, only they can be termed as citizens. And since women were limited to household chores, household works, so he considered them not to be part of citizenship. Same about foreigners, because you cannot believe them as per his conception, that because they are outsiders, they will come, they are not aware of your cultural background, the things which you are doing. And same is about slaves, since slaves are those people who lack moral and intellectual capability. So that's why they are also not defined in terms of proper citizens. So this is what was conception of Aristotle at that time. So by citizenship, he meant that there should be full and equal participation from citizens in governance. That is what he tried to imply at that point of time. But that's what I'm telling, that we are now critical about it, but that's how concepts evolve. So we cannot have a static definition. It will evolve over a period of time, and that is what we have to keep looking, we have to keep striving, so that more and more people get more welfare rights and all the rights which should be given to the people. Now our present dynamics of citizenship, how do we define it? So in simpler terms, citizenship is like a relationship between individual and the state, right? So as a person, how are you getting connected with the state? And state, I have defined you, right? So citizenship is a interrelationship between individual and as well as state. And I think till now you all are already aware about these two very common practices of acquiring citizenship, jus soli and jus sanguinis, which are Latin words. And jus soli is like it depends on the place of birth. It is also known as right of soil. So it's like in soil you have taken birth, that's why you have a right that you will get citizenship. So it is also said in terms of analysis that it's beneficial in terms of preventing statelessness, because it binds the particular country in which you have taken birth, that it will grant you citizenship, it will grant you nationality, and people, those who are born in that soil, they will, if it is not given, then they can become stateless. So in that way, this is a conception which gets appreciated in some ways and also criticized in some ways. But here, for the sake of understanding, this is just solely. And then we have just sanguinis, where child acquires the citizenship of parents irrespective of the place of birth, thereby making descent or bloodline a criterion of acquiring nationality. So this is also known as law of blood. And I think this has been discussed in multiple lectures also, as I could recall. So why we are talking so much about citizenship? Why citizenship remains controversial always? So there are certain characteristics which, or we can say the distinctiveness in citizenship, which always compels us to think more or think deeper in terms of understanding it. So the first, because Turner in 2009 described this thing that citizenship has two crucial dimensions. One, that it is exclusionary inherently. By nature, it is exclusionary. Because the moment you say that he is a citizen, at the same time, you are saying that those who are not citizens, they're outside of the bracket. So inherently, that conception is very exclusionary, that you take some people in and remaining are kept outside. There could be many reasons. It could be documentation, it could be other criminal charges, it could be any other violation of the things which have been mainstreamed. But here what Turner wants to let us know, that it divides the people between privileged members, those who have got citizenship. That is a privilege, right? And those people who are bound to fall outside the privilege of membership, because those people are not getting membership. So he wants to describe that, for instance, if income tax, passports, and pensions are markers of citizenship, then it implies that these are indicative of contributory rights and duties capable of exerting exclusionary force. You all are aware that many countries provide you citizenship if you have a huge amount of money and you can pay directly to the country, or maybe you can invest in countries and then you get citizenship. So that's what, it's a power dynamics, that if you are very rich and powerful, you will get citizenship, and those people who are stateless, they are asserting, they are trying to save their lives. There could be refugees, there could be diaspora, there could be in any scenario where forced migration has taken place, and they're trying to gain citizenship, but they're not getting it just because they do not have that wealth with them, or they do not have that power, political power with them. Second dimension is about inheritance nature, that he mentions that citizenship, when we say that citizenship is something, a conception, then it is also hereditary in nature, right? Because it's just like you inherit from your parents, just like property. So your parents are in, suppose they are US citizens, and since you have taken birth there, so you also become US citizen. So in that way, just like you hold property and you take property from your parents, in a similar way, you take inheritance from your parents. For example, if those children whose parents are stuck in some stateless situation, they have to bear the brunt of that, even when there is no fault of their own. So this is something which Turner wants to emphasize, that it indicates that advantages of citizenship are acquired arbitrarily, whether one deserves it or not. So this is what is very important when we talk about citizenship. Then let's come to the exact point over which we are going to discuss more. So this is about diaspora citizenship. So when we talk about diaspora, so I think numerous lectures, and you all are already aware about multiple definitions of diaspora, each and every nuances of diaspora. But just for the sake of understanding, it's a simple definition that diaspora can be defined as the community of people from the same homeland who have migrated to other countries to settle. Now, when we say that diaspora citizenship, so we are aware now, we are at this point of time, we are already aware about diaspora as well as citizenship. So diaspora citizenship is about, diaspora is demanding citizenship, right? So diaspora citizenship encompasses issues associated with place and belonging. So it's just not about legality. It's also about substantive rights. People have to recognize, society has to recognize them, appreciate them, acknowledge them. This is something which is a very longer path. That is what we are striving for. So this is diaspora citizenship, which talks about places and belonging. So when we say that diaspora, so it's an expressive concept also, because it has multiple complexities involved with many places at one hand, and sometimes there is no attachment to any place. For example, if diaspora is moving with their own ambitions voluntarily, then it's like they're attached to, for example, Indian diaspora. It's in US, in Europe. So they are attached to many places, hostland as well as homeland, their country. But when, suppose, if people have been forced to go, they have maybe for like Rohingya refugees. So when we see them that they have been forced from Myanmar, so now they do not have any attachment to the place for the reason that they don't want to go now to that particular place. They hate the place because of the forced migration which has taken place, because the regime is not going to support them. The society is not going to like them. So that is why they have no attachment to that place. But the place where they are going, they're also, they're finding it difficult because people are treating them as foreigners, maybe in Bangladesh. So that is what the scenario is. So that's why diaspora becomes complex when we try to understand it. And then, as we all are aware of it, that diasporic communities are often simultaneously part of two or more societies, because there is a conception of double diaspora also, right? So I don't know whether you all are aware about it or not, but double diaspora is something that when you shift from one place to other place, and maybe in coming generation from that place to also to different place. So in that way, that is known as double diaspora. So where,
sir, can you give some examples of double diaspora?
I think Gujarati community, which was forced to for the indentured labor in Caribbean and other parts of other European countries also. So over a period of generation, they changed their movement to the UK after they were forced from in the African countries. They moved, and from there also over a period of time they moved to UK. So in that way, they became double diaspora. So in that way,
as per my understanding, the most of the indentured labor from UP, Bihar, and other places, I have personally not heard of Gujaratis being indentured labor. So certainly, you are saying that Gujaratis were there.
No. Actually, I will mention specifically to because what I know that Gujaratis, there are multiple sort of examples, but
Okay.
what I can recall as of now, that Gujarati from maybe from Tanzania, I'm trying to remembering it, but from Tanzania to UK, they moved in a sort of multiple movement, and then that is some conception of a double diaspora. But I have multiple examples which maybe after the lecture I can share with you all. So now let's forward to about the two or more societies that so when they are part of two societies, so they are not just limited to shaping a new life in new surroundings. They have also dual challenges, because at one point of time they are trying to gain social position in new social structure, as well as they are also trying to retain their previous position. So in that way, they are trying to do both things at one time, because this is something which they have to retain, because this is not that they don't want to relinquish all the connections with which they have with their own previous society. Now we will come to a belonging. So this is a term which is a very substantive term when it comes to attachment. So when we say that belonging, it's an abstract concept who which cannot be quantified. This is something, it's a feeling of attachment to a particular place or to a country. This is a belonging. The way when we move to some places from our homeland for the study, for or for any purpose, so we have that belonging to our home place. That is the key characteristic when we say about belonging. But it is complex because it brings with it so many dimensions, because it is gendered, it is spatial because it keeps space into that, it is relational, it is technological, it is age related, as well as it has cultural dimensions. So that's why when we try to understand it, so we have to understand it in terms of conceptual dimensions, as well as how it affects at all levels, because it has gender dimension, space dimension, relational dimensions, all those aspects. So Anton Sich is a scholar who has tried to define place belongingness by giving 6 factors. First is autobiographical factor. There are experiences which relates to one's past, childhood memories, then memory of our own ancestors, personal experiences. It all depends on how you are attached to that place. Then you have relational factors, which talks about personal and social ties that helps you to contribute in enriching a person's life at a given place. It also includes a close relationship with friends and relatives, and your interaction with people over a period of time. Then you have cultural factors, which is about language, community, habits, traditions, religiosity, food choices, and all these sort of similar cultural factors. Then you have economic factors, which is about finance, social safety of your family, of your own. So these are also very important when you try to envision future. Then you have legal factors. These about individuals include citizenship and residency permits. These are like very vital for safe and dignified stay in some country. Then you have length of residence. This indicates the people who choose the place of residence because of pull factors like quality of life and material or intellectual opportunities. So these are all 6 aspects which are very crucial in understanding belongingness. Then we have claim of immigrants who wants to achieve citizenship, right? So what is the exact argument on which they are trying to claim citizenship? So when diaspora is asking for citizenship, so do they have some sort of rationale behind it? So what they are saying that there are three key dimensions on which we can categorize it. One is economic belonging. Since immigrants contribute a lot to the host land in terms of economic advancement, and they are crucial and inalienable part of the country's economy. That's why they are demanding it, and this is a very noteworthy argument also. Then we have social belonging, which says that immigrants participate in everyday social exchange and relations. It creates a critical social fabric in the host land society. So this is about social belonging. When you talk about social relations and when you meet people, so that you're part of the society now. Then there is a universal conception when we talk about human rights, and when we say that all persons, irrespective of nationality, immigrants also claim citizenship as part of the global economy, because they are contributing to the global economy in some ways. Because this is an age of hyper globalization, and we see that if something happens in one economy, it affects other economies as well. Then now let's try to merge citizenship and belonging. So there is an interesting example of UK, where till 1981, Britain has legally differentiated citizenship and belonging, because citizens could only be those people who had white lineage or white descent. So that's how they were preventing all the colored citizens from getting citizenship, because they do not belong to Britain. So that's how they cannot remain or reside permanently in UK. So that is what their policy was. But after 1981, I think after loads of pressure, they had to relinquish this sort of discrimination among people. But that revolves us, or that compels us to think that how merely getting citizenship or doesn't mean that you also belong to that. So you have to get the legal sort of dimension in terms of citizenship, but as well as society should also accept you as equal with them. Then only one can belong to the place. So Anton Sich has mentioned this quote where he says that the expression "I belong here" remains first and foremost a personal, intimate feeling of being at home in a place. Because when you are going to some place, you belong to that place only when you have that personal, intimate feeling that yes, I belong to this place. I like this place because people are liking me, because society is accepting me, and I am getting all the due recognition and rights, including all welfare measures which are being given to the citizen of that country. So then only you feel that, okay, that belonging is there, you belong to the place. And but the reality, harsh reality is about that this is unavoidably conditioned by the power relations, which is also known as politics of belonging. Because whether the country is recognizing you or not, that also decides whether you will get citizenship. Even if you will get citizenship, whether you will be given the equal sort of rights. Then let's move to Tibetan diaspora in India, because we have seen how they, like most Tibetan people, are living in India in several parts of our country. So before we discuss it, as you all already aware about it, that India is not signatory to 1951 convention relating to the status of refugees, which is a very important UN mandated refugee treaty. Additionally, it is also not party to the 1967 protocols. So now legally you are not bound to it, but in customary laws, you can say that India follows some ethical guidelines. So when it comes to Tibetan diaspora, as per the 2009 data, around 110,095 Tibetan refugees are located in almost 45 settlements in almost 10 states of India. And all the issues related to Tibetan refugees are communicated to the Indian government through Central Tibetan Relief Committee, CTRC, which has been under the leadership of His Holiness Dalai Lama. So how India is managing them, or how India is facilitating the Tibetan people. So Tibetans have been given registration certificates by the Indian government that facilitate their stay in the country. So one of the report mentions that Tibetan population in India has decreased from 1.5 lakh to 85,000 in 7 years, because they are migrating outward to US, Germany, Canada, Switzerland, or maybe some people are also returning to Tibet or China. So what are the reasons behind it? That has to be understood. But when it comes to one of the reasons is about finding jobs in India. We will discuss more about it. Then when it comes to challenges, so as per the Yeshi Choridan views, there are two major challenges which that are being faced by Tibetan diaspora in India. First, it's about youth employment. They are educated but unemployed. So the educated youth want to move forward in terms of career opportunities, but because that means that they need to shed off with the older generation employment. That was like running small shops, sweaters, handicrafts, whatever was being sold by their parents. That is not what they aspire to. They want to move forward in the career trajectory. But the statelessness status is affecting their youth, their job prospects, and they are finding it highly challenging to find jobs in India. Then second dimension is about difficulties to travel abroad. So there are multiple clearances. So one is the issue of getting an identity certificate from Government of India when you like to travel abroad. It could be for study, it could be for running monastery. So rather than having a passport, they have to get an identity certificate. Then the process of acquiring identity certificate has been found very long as well as cumbersome. Then Tibetans are also supposed to apply and acquire the permit for leaving the country, and also when they are re-entering the country. So this shows that how many challenges they have to get through to complete the journey. So, and it has also been found that since various immigration officials across the country are unaware of such travel documents, so Tibetans many times face problems at multiple airports. And but when it comes, like, this was something which, in terms of challenges, we discussed from various scholars. But is Indian government doing something about it? So I think yes. In 2014, Ministry of Home Affairs initiated the Tibetan Rehabilitation Policy 2014. So that has specific guidelines laid down to bring uniformity with the common citizens of India. So all the state governments have been asked to sign a lease document with a validity of 20 years. So all the authorized representative of Central Tibetan Rehabilitation Committee, they can go to the state government and they can sign a lease document for 20 years to that particular place. Then when it comes to development schemes like Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, Public Distribution System, Indira Awas Yojana, National Rural Livelihood Mission, Rajiv Awas Yojana, National Rural Health Mission, and loan facilities by Nationalized Bank. All these have to be given to Tibetan refugees. If they apply for it, they are eligible for it as per the policy. Then it has also been specifically said that any development scheme in social sector, whether it is from central government or it is from state government, should be considered to be extended for all Tibetan refugees on the basis of registration certificate. So if particular Tibetan refugee has registration certificate, RC with them, they can avail these policies. And then this policy also mentions that all the state governments are supposed to extend infrastructural facilities, educational subsidies, special programs, land allocation, so that local handicrafts can be encouraged. Financial grant in aid can also be given to Tibetan cooperative societies. Trade permissions has to be given to them. And then employment opportunities, vocational training, and all those things are specifically mentioned in the policy by the government of India. So this was about how Indian Tibetan diaspora is managing their stay in India, and how Indian government is facilitating them. So we say that Tibetans have reached a stage where they are belonging to the country. They find attachment to the India, and but even despite all those things, they need to secure a good future and for that, I think they are moving forward to several places where they can get official refugee status and they can avail more facilities, and thereafter citizenship also. So this is about Tibetan diaspora in US. So this is an interesting example when natural Tibetans applied for American citizenship in 1999. So when you apply for citizenship, so you have to mention that your place of birth. So they mentioned Tibet in their document. But when the passport was created and it was sent to them, surprisingly, it was written that the passport mentioned that your place of birth is China. So that created a lot of controversy. So a lot of protest and pressurizing was done by Tibetan Americans, and the Congress members also pressurized. Then the US Tibet Committee was created, and then in 1979, that few things were discussed about it, and it was mentioned that US citizens born abroad may now list the city or town of their birth rather than the country if they object to entry of the name of the country of birth as it presently known. So the issue here is US doesn't want to say that Tibet is not part of China. And since China is going to be highly vocal about it, that if you mention that Tibet is a different territory, then this is something which will create sore relations between countries. So here, like geopolitics on dimensions gets into the Tibetan identity. But at one point of time, those people who belong to that particular place, they claim that no, we were born in Tibet and we want to be mentioned that we took birth in Tibet. So somehow US government has managed this scenario, and those who are mentioning that they had taken birth in Tibet, so they are giving opportunity, they are being given the specific column in the passport now. And I think in Bush administration, they also passed legislation which through the US Congress, which specified that that Tibet needs to be termed as occupied country. But overall, in different regime, that changes over the terms of geopolitics. And this is what we see, that it's not like that Tibetan people are getting citizenship, belonging, and all those aspects which they aspire in all other country. So even in India, they are getting many rights, as I've mentioned in Tibetan rehabilitation policy. In US also they are getting some rights, but when it comes to belonging, it's a different sort of dimension, and they are facing so many issues. When it comes to, then let's move forward about integration and belonging. It's also a sort of advanced concept when we say that people, those who are homeless, stateless, they face immense amount of suffering. It's like disenfranchisement. They do not have any voting rights. And it's also a sort of social death. Why? Because if you are living in certain territory where you are not being given citizenship, then it's like degrading myths are being created, stereotypes are being perpetuated, punitive treatment by case workers from other agencies is being done. You are not being given proper school systems. So that is going to perpetuate illiteracy, joblessness, and ultimately loss of rights as citizens, which you could have you could have in particular territory. Then it comes when it comes to integration. It's so we have two words here. One is integration, one is assimilation, right? So rather than using the word assimilation, we should use integration. And why so? Because integration is a mutual process rather than assimilation. In assimilation, it's a one-way process, right? That you come to us, but that party also wants to come or not, in all ways, right? So in integration, it's like unity in diversity. So unity is sought in citizenship, as well as diversity is maintained by reciprocal appreciation of diverse cultural contributions. So a state is recognizing your customs, traditions, and it's acknowledging your contribution to the economy. And in a similar way, those people also are considering the host land as part of their own identity. So that's how integration works. So it's a far more better word than assimilation. So now let's move forward to economic incentives of integration and belonging. So there are 7 dividends, which according to Legren in 2016, he mentioned that refugees provide incentives in multiple terms. For example, 40 dividend, because many refugees do dirty, difficult, dangerous, and dull jobs that are not readily taken by the host society. Deafness dividend, highly skilled refugees and their children can fill gaps in labor market. Debt dividend, refugee can become net contributors in public finances in long term. Development dividend, through meaningful settlement opportunities, they can contribute to their own development as well as families and countries of origin through remittance and other forms of engagement. Then we have dynamism dividend. Through meaningful settlement opportunities, refugees can contribute to their own development, families and countries of origin through remittances and other forms of engagement. Then we have diversity dividend, because refugees can bring new ideas, innovation outside the older form of conceptions. Then we have demographic dividend. Since on a common basis, it has been found that refugees tend to be younger than the general population. So they can help build younger and adaptable workforce. So when it comes to dimensions like this, so let's go to move forward. It's like a future pathway. How this citizenship and belonging, all these things can be incorporated, integration. So I think multi-stakeholder responsibilities, have to be adopted. When it comes to political parties, they have to take forward good initiatives in terms of governance framework. So, because they are the ones who can influence the mindset of voters. But it has been witnessed that all over the globe, these political parties leverage populist support by raising concerns that they would like to protect national values, cultural compatibility, social cohesion, and such. So, what these expressions do? These draw discriminatory lines of demarcation, perpetuate differences between immigrants and the common citizens, and justify various forms of injustices. So, for example, in India, the political parties discuss that how Bangladeshis are coming and snatching away jobs. So, in certain electoral pockets, they are being rendered as political chessboard in that way. So, these are some things which political parties has to be more inclusive towards immigrants, refugees, stateless persons. Then we have media who also perpetuate so many issues. For example, they impose specific identities. For example, which leads to exclusion of diaspora or asylum seeker or refugees. So there have been many instances which you also must have seen that in media it has been said that asylum seekers have been termed as boat people, or Syrians have been termed as victims of war trauma, or terrorism is associated with Islam. So these are certain prejudices which has been imposed and perpetuated over years against people, religion, or culture. So this is something which needs to be countered. Then, because what it does, it creates a particular hegemonic identity over a specific group, which leads to their exclusion from society. So it compels them to question their belonging in the host land or the homeland. So that's why Marlowe in 2018 has suggested that narratives of adversity, oppression, trauma are vital for gaining recognition and serve as a powerful instrument to claim essential resources and recognition from the international community. However, it also serves as extraordinary representation, obstructing refugees' integration process and participation with the wider society of the host land. So that is why political parties and media needs to be more accountable, more human, so that they can ensure safe, orderly, and regular migration rather than imposing or perpetuating the myths which are not in reality favorable for the any party. And I think that's all. This is about integration and belonging model. I think you all know that India follows the celeb bound model, where you incorporate, you preserve the identity of the diaspora or the immigrants with separate distinctiveness. You are not asking them to get assimilated with everything. And when you come at this place, you will adopt all the norms and customs, withdrawing your own customs. So it's not like that. When it comes to US, they adopt melting pot model, where it's also known as American culture, where you have to assimilate everything into that. But these are the models which are evolving over a period of time. So we have keywords like belonging, which I have already told. It's a feeling of personal connection or bonding to particular culture, place, with intricate interlinkage of identity, interaction in a broader context. Diaspora, you already know. Integration is a two-way mutual adaptation process by migrants and host society, which provides the way of migrants to get accepted, acknowledged, and appreciated in the host society. So these are some references and societal readings. I think PPT has already been shared with you. And I think maybe we have already completed. So yes, so I think Manish asked about the double diaspora thing. So for example, in 1870s, British diaspora, British Empire was perpetuating or the compelling people to move. And when slavery was abolished, so Britain transported almost 1 million Indians to as an indentured laborers to Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and these were almost treated as slaves.
Mauritius, Fiji,
True.
Caribbean islands.
Yes. So after that, they when regime changed and over a period of time, they changed their location and they went to UK. And that's how we have more examples also, like Indo-Fijians. They're also termed as a double diaspora because once they're from India to Fiji and then from Fiji to Australia. So they also are known as double diaspora.
Yeah.
There are multiple examples.
So what I understand that when a diaspora migrate to a relatively, kind of average location, like say if you go to Caribbean, then there is a reward for migrating to larger economic, say USA. Similarly, if you have migrated to Fiji, then there is a incentive for migrating to Australia or New Zealand. So that would have been happening in those kinds of places. If you are migrated to any place in Africa, then there is a reward for migrating to South Africa because there is a better governance and better economic opportunities are there. So those examples could be there. But only thing I will object that I have never known a Gujarati being sent as an indentured labor. Reason being, I have now heard that is one point. The reason being that Gujarati companies were very wealthy from the very beginning. So there was no reason they could have gone there. Yes, people from UP, Bihar, Orissa, Bengal, they might have gone.
Sure. I agree to you, Manishji. And that's how we have multiple examples also. Like I mentioned, like they went to East Africa and then they went to, like Gujarati people, they went to UK and to Canada also. So these are such examples. And I think in comment box, Abaji has mentioned that she would like to explore more about Tibetan diaspora. So I think maybe you can discuss with Dr. Sahu, because I think he has also done extensive amount of research and he has interviewed many people, Tibetan people, and he's in touch with them. So he will be far more helpful comparatively to me because he has been in touch with so many people, Tibetan people. So I think thank you so much for listening.
Only thing I will like certainly make comment that by your lecture, in-depth lecture, because in other international religion subject I have dealt with the migration and diaspora, but because this course is exclusively for this topic, the issues like integration that you have talked about, that is very important. Because when a migration takes place, for example, from Tibet to India, okay, so initially they are settled, food is provided, land is provided, that's okay. But what happens in the long run? How you give them employment opportunity? So those issues were, I think, they are very genuine, and a lot of studies need to be taken. And I was very pleased to know when you said that Government of India has given directive to the state to integrate them, offer them various schemes. So I think that is a welcome move.
Abhishek sir, is there any data anywhere which is available in how they are being integrated? Are the Tibetans actually taking up the MG Narega work or any other work like that? Is there somewhere some data? Because as far as I understand, because Aadhaar card is very, very important for the MG Narega work as of now today also, and even for the Indira Awas, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana or the state schemes and everything, they are looking at the Aadhaar numbers, which is crucial for maintaining the transparency of who has got it and at what level that work is going on. So I'm just thinking how that has been integrated into it, because I'm sure the Tibetans would not be, diaspora would not, unless and until they become citizens of India, would not be getting an Aadhaar card. The PDS ration card is easier because again, ration card is also, as of now, the PDS system, at least in Orissa, they have linked it up to the Aadhaar. Of course, they do say that Aadhaar, not having an Aadhaar number does not debar you from getting the ration if you're still under the BPL families. or you are a destitute for whatever reasons, old person or anything. But I'm very curious to understand how Tibetans would be able to avail that opportunity.
I agree to your conception that it's highly challenging when it comes to when you don't have that legal documents like Aadhaar card. But I think that since Tibetans are not being given that citizenship legality from the Indian government, so that's why that Tibetan rehabilitation committee has been established, and I think the verdict by MHA that this is the policy has been sent to all the state governments. So they have been
Excuse me,
prescribed.
sir.
Please wait a minute.
This is okay.
So they have been ordered to provide those facilities through the policy, and since MHA is the overarching authority, so that is a binding to all the state governments. But even then, I think in terms of practicality, in terms of implementation, that remains difficult because at ground level, at panchayat level, like officials are not aware about all those things. So maybe if it comes to data, only MHA would be in a condition to provide you data, and that's far more challenging to access it. Because
no, I think what I will do is while I am planning to go to the Tibetan camp in Orissa.
Sure.
So this particular slide of yours is very important. I will take it up, and actually the camp manager, whoever is there, maybe he will be able to provide us, even if I don't get the data per se, at least the conversations and other things will be able to tell us what is happening.
Sure. And I think Dr. Sahu
Excuse me, madam.
Also knows many people, like, because we interviewed last year, we interviewed many people, Tibetan, especially student leaders also. So you can get in touch with them because...
No, sir, I'm already in touch because he has approved this project, which I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to do. It's a part of the course only. So
Sure.
Yeah. Right. I think Mahesh has been trying to say
Manish,
something.
please.
Yeah. Okay, one thing is not true that Indian government has not done anything for the Tibetan citizenship. Actually, they were offered the Indian citizenship, but the first and second generation Tibetan refugees opted not to take it.
Okay.
No way we are saying that the citizenship was not offered. I said basically because they are not citizens, they cannot take the work. We were just debating on the work. It is up to them. It's on individual which country they want to belong to.
Sure.
Okay. That we have information about Mysore district, very close to Coorg. Their lifestyle or the current situation, they will be engaging in because they basically work as landlords and individuals working in the farms. And the third generation, current generation, actually kind of.
Your voice is breaking, so we are unable to hear anything. What you are saying? No.
Hello.
Network fluctuation is there, so we are unable to hear you.
Hello, sir. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. The thing is that their current economic situation is some comparatively better, and in their farms actually Indian laborers are working. I don't think they.
Sure.
What is the source of their income?
They have 1,000 acres of land given to them on lease by Indian government. So they have agriculture fields and they run small shops, handicrafts, and for their ration thing and all, they have their own cooperatives, which works well, and they are heavily funded from foreign countries, as much I know.
Sure. Thanks,
and
Manish.
They live in communities and collectives, so housing and all, they are well maintained.
Sure. So thank you, Manish, for this informative insight which you shared with us. And thank you so much, all of you. So, Sahu sir, maybe we can end the lecture now.
Yes, yes, you did it well. I think Manish was talking about the livelihood status and everything of Tibetan. Very good. I agree with him because I traveled a lot. So they get funding from various sources. Other than that, they are mostly highly networked also. So they mobilize the resources. I have seen many people, they are very good. And Indians are going and working in their field, farmhouses and all, in Ladakh and Himachal Pradesh, everywhere. So they are well off. But that,
And one more thing is there, sir.
Hmm.
If they work in Indian Army, they are allowed to work in Indian Army.
Yes.
But if they return to Tibet or something, they will be prosecuted. They will be behind bars. Maybe that repercussion may be on their families, who are left there. That also there.
So okay, with this will conclude. Thank you, Abhishek, for a very stimulating talk. Okay, take care. And we'll keep doing this. And if there are any questions regarding, assignment, project, I'll take 5 minutes. After that, we'll close.
Sir, my question is that are we getting the printed books?
Already gone for print. So I got the first draft for correction. It is over now. So maybe this month or, they have done very quickly. So I'll just approve, will get. Okay, Dr. Bijoson is here. But you came now, so Acha, you are there before. You are mute. You are mute.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Are you here? Means you are here only.
I was here. I just wrote for a short
I
while.
did observe actually.
Yes, sir. I was listening to everybody. Nice lecture by Abhishek, Dr. Abhishek. It was quite good. Yes,
So
sir.
take care. Maybe some, other day we'll have talk by Dr. Vijay. So we'll see how it goes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anything else? Abha, you want to ask anything?
No, sir, I'm okay.
Okay. So we are closing now. See you.